Today on the show, we have Camila Russo, founder and chiefess, I think, of the Defiant. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's one way to say
Uh,
it. Mhm.
Camila is building the Defiant, one of my favorite crypto and DeFi media companies, a company whose content I've been consuming before I was even putting things out into the world myself. So, really excited to have her on to hear her story, hear the story of the Defiant, and also just learn from her about building a media company and talk about DeFi.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming. So, I gave a brief introduction, but why don't you introduce yourself and the Defiant for people who might not be familiar?
Sure. So, a brief intro on myself. I'm the founder and CEO slash chiefess of the Defiant. I started the Defiant in 2019. It started out as a daily DeFi newsletter that was supposed to be a side project to what I thought would be a freelance career after I quit Bloomberg. Before starting the Defiant, I was a Bloomberg News reporter for 8 years. I started as an intern in New York and then uh, was based in Argentina. Then I was based in Spain and then came back to New York with Bloomberg. And then we can get into why I quit and all of that. Yeah, after leaving Bloomberg, I finished writing The Infinite Machine, which is um, a book I wrote about the history of Ethereum. It was the first book on the history of Ethereum. And yeah, like I think 2 weeks after sending my first draft of the book to my publisher, I sent my first email for the Defiant newsletter. And I've grown the Defiant into a multi-channel media company since then. The Defiant pretty quickly started taking up all of my time. So my freelance career never really started, and I just went all in on the Defiant, and that's where we're at today.
So, taking a step back, how did you go from Bloomberg reporter to writing a book about Ethereum and being interested in DeFi and crypto to begin with? Because that was pretty early in the timeline of DeFi as an industry.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm originally from Chile, and when I was living in Argentina in Buenos Aires, uh, as a market reporter with Bloomberg, I was mostly covering how um, people were protecting their investments and savings from all of the horrible mismanagement that happens in Argentina, and which causes runaway inflation and causes the government to implement currency controls because people just do not want to hold Argentine pesos. And so what was happening, this was back in 2013, there was a growing Bitcoin ecosystem and community because people were uh, because they couldn't get a hold of dollars or any foreign currency, they were turning to Bitcoin to protect their savings. And so I wrote about this for Bloomberg at the time. I had to convince my editors that this was a real thing. Like many of them hadn't even heard about Bitcoin. Those who had thought it was a scam, so it wasn't worth us, giving it any attention. But I was able to convince them, and the story did extremely well. And so, and I was like, they were like, okay, yeah, you were right. But more importantly, that really got me interested in crypto. I thought it was just fascinating, and so I just kept track of what was happening in the space. And then in 2017, I was back in New York with Bloomberg covering macro markets, and I had more flexibility to write about whatever was interesting in macro. And obviously, 2017 was a huge year for crypto. So I started blogging about Bitcoin, and at the time, Bitcoin ETFs were also, just like an important topic. And so one of the managing editors for markets at Bloomberg said, like we actually do need more crypto content. So I became the first Bloomberg journalist to really cover the space on a day-to-day basis. Um, and by the end of 2017, I I just, I saw this fascinating space and decided there was a book there. And that's something that I had always wanted to do, write a book. So looked at, the most important story that hadn't been told yet, and that was Ethereum. So so yeah, I pitched a, a, a book about the history of Ethereum, and luckily HarperCollins thought it was a good idea. So I just kept going further and further down the crypto rabbit hole, reporting on it every day. Now writing this book. All through 2018, I was writing my book and still at Bloomberg. I had a 3-month book leave. By the end of that time, I just didn't want to go back to reporting on regular markets. I pitched Bloomberg the idea of me leading a cryptocurrency dedicated team, and they didn't want to have a crypto team at the time. So I decided that it was time for me to leave and just do my own thing. So yeah, that's how I went from Bloomberg market reporter to, I guess, like crypto writer or content creator.
Hmm. And the book was called The Infinite Machine.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Um, I wanted a an analogy to represent Ethereum in a way that didn't involve any technical jargon. And so for me, like a blockchain, it is like a machine that just works in the way that is predetermined and set up, and infinite is meant to convey that there is an infinite number of applications and use cases that can be built on this machine that is Ethereum.
That makes a lot of sense. Do you ever listen to like music on YouTube? Weird question, but like those
Mm,
sort of 3 hour long study playlists. Do you ever listen to those?
yeah,
Okay,
sometimes. Yeah.
some of them there's a genre called synthwave, and I think of when I hear the Infinite Machine, I think of those videos because oftentimes it's just a uh, video of like a futuristic spaceship or car basically driving into
Nice.
an infinite sunset with a computer grid. So I think
Okay,
of
well,
that.
I
uh,
like that.
and you see that aesthetic a lot in crypto. Maybe that's why my mind jumped to it.
Mm.
But my impression is that the Defiant is now pretty huge. Is that maybe it's all relative? My impression is that it's a fairly substantial media company now. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. I mean, definitely not among the top three, say, biggest crypto media company, but top 10, maybe. So I think we've established ourselves as one of the most recognized crypto media brands. And we do have the um, differentiator that's we're the only DeFi focused media company. So yeah, very proud of where we're at. es- I mean, the other difference and something that I'm very proud of as well is that um, we are an independent media company. So we're not owned by any third party. We're not owned by a VC or any large organization. The company is, majority controlled by myself.
Hmm.
Um, and I did raise a bit of seed funding early on because my initial plan was to make a Bloomberg like terminal, but for DeFi and crypto. So I raised a bit of money to make that data platform. But in the end, during the bear market, I had to freeze, those plans. So hopefully at some point I'll be able to resume that. But other than that seed fundraising I did, we are bootstrapped uh, and profitable. So we're not taking we're not depending on VC funding or loans from any millionaire, like crypto millionaire or anything like that. So that's something else that I'm really proud of. We've created a just sustainable working media business, which uh, is very hard thing to do these
Mhm.
days.
Yeah, I know that for sure. My if you'd call it a media business, right? My channel and newsletters is much smaller, but I've seen bootstrapping that, just how challenging that is as a business. So, the Defiant, what are the main channels right now? You still have the newsletter, I assume?
Yeah,
Well, I know
we
you do.
yep, we have the free newsletter and a paid newsletter called DeFi Alpha. We have our weekly podcast that I still run. We have obviously our website where we publish, our just news stories, and our YouTube channel where we publish about 3 to 4 videos a week.
Wow, that's quite a bit. And do you have how many people do you have working there at this point?
We're an 11-person team
11-person team.
distributed. Yeah.
Wonderful.
hmm
Um, so, what would you say were the biggest challenges with building that out, especially during the bear markets?
Uh, well, I think a challenge for media companies, especially in crypto, is how tied to the market audiences are. So just unfortunate because you're creating um, the same or even better content, more content at sometimes, but it doesn't really, like, it's not kind of in your hands. What It's not completely in your hands what your audience will be, because it just depends so much on what the market is doing, the level of interest that there will be for crypto. So that's definitely a challenge to be able to um, uh, leverage bull markets in a smart way to be able to survive bear markets. Um, and yeah, tons of lessons of learned after going through a bull and bear cycle. Um, we definitely should have been more conservative in the bull run, um, and um, and built out a kind of larger cash balance. And instead, I I expanded our team and kind of spent money on events, and where maybe I should have been more conservative. Um, and and then the bear market was great in the sense that it taught us to be extremely lean. So I cut my team in half basically. I cut out any unnecessary expense, and that's on the cost saving side. And then on the revenue side, we made our sales process so much better. So we realized we were underutilizing, or yeah, underselling our channels. Um, so we learned how to manage our inventory a lot better, how to create products that sponsored resonated with more. Like a great example is our explainer videos. So we do sponsored explainer videos. And one thing to highlight about the Defiant is that all of our paid content is disclosed as such. Like, we will never produce any editorial content that is paid for. So paid content is clearly marked as a sponsor or partnership, or you will know if any piece of content created by us was paid for. But anyways, that's beside the point. So the what I was saying is like an example of a new product that we created in the bear market are these explainer videos, which sponsors really love. We create like an explainer, a tutorial of different crypto and DeFi platforms on our YouTube channel, and that does really well, and so on. So we created different better products to sell to sponsors. We improved our inventory, we improved our sales process. Like everything became a lot more professional. Like before the bear market, we just like sold out on inbound. Like we didn't have to do any sales effort. And in the bear market, we realized, okay, we need to actually go out and sell. We never had to do that before. Um, so that was, yeah, I mean, really important lesson, obviously. Um, so yeah, I think those were, the main challenges we faced so far. But they've just been invaluable lessons learned and has made us so much stronger.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm learning a lot just from listening to that.
Hmm.
One thing I wanted to talk about, and this is part of the reason why I had reached out for an interview, was I saw you did this amazing Twitter post maybe a couple weeks ago where you were talking about balancing being a mom with running a crypto media company.
Hmm.
Can you just share a little bit about that with the audience? And I thought it was pretty inspiring how you've managed to do that.
Sure. And thank you. Yeah, so I had my first baby December of 2022. It was like I was in the middle of fundraising at the time. I was actually in the office and had done a call with IBC the morning that I went into labor. So, uh,
Wow.
yeah. Um, and yeah, it's been incredibly intense to manage having a newborn, and now a baby that's becoming a toddler, and running a startup at the same time. um, I think there is no way to do it without help. That's kind of the main message that I wanted to say, and that it's important for women and for families to know that, because I think um, as a feminist and someone who grew up kind of reading Sheryl Sandberg books and leaning in and like girl boss narrative and all that stuff, like the first kind of wave feminism of like millennial generation, I really kind of came of age thinking that, okay, like women can have it all, like society has solved this issue, like now is the time for women to be kicking ass and professionals in kind of every level, but we can still have a family and babies and all of that. But it's not that easy. Like this problem really has not been solved. It does require so much money for childcare. It requires a community of people who can help you, starting with hopefully your partner, for those who have one, and hopefully family around you, friends who can help, and like I said, childcare. Like uh, there's no way women can have it all without all of those pieces coming together. And obviously, just I'm pretty lucky that I run my own company, so I can kind of dictate my own rules. But if I was relying on U.S. laws and regulations and kind of how corporations work here, it would be up to the company that I work at what my uh, maternity leave would be. And in most cases in the US, it's very uncommon that that men have paternity leave, which just makes it so much harder for women. It puts all the responsibility of childcare on women, and we've seen what that does to careers. So you know I know that the problem has been uh, taken, or it's been dealt with, and I think in a better way in other countries where both parents have equal parent leave and so on. But that's like the minority of countries have that system. In most cases, it is uh, the mom who takes just most of the childcare responsibility. Um, so you know, like I said, I'm lucky that I kind of can make my own rules and could work from home. Um, I still took like just like a 2 month maternity leave. So I'd be kind of on the like very kind of low end of the spectrum if I if compared with other like corporate policies. But in any case, like I could work from home, like I could like move my meetings around to suit my schedule. But that's far from the case for most women.
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
quick question.
Mhm.
When you took that 2 months, were you truly unplugged? Or, I mean, you're running the company. Did you still find yourself having to call into things and
So
and
the
do
the
things?
first month definitely truly unplugged. I mean, yeah, it's uh, very very hard to do anything else. I think with a newborn. The second month, I had a system where I checked in with my COO once a week. We had a call to kind of see align on things, and then I asked kind of the team leads, like video lead, sales lead, print lead, to send me a report at the end of the week as well. So I had like written reports Fridays, and then Mondays I had that kind of alignment call with my COO. So I was still kind of, you know, I was slowly coming back to work. And then by the end of that second month, I was, joining calls and like slowly getting back to the rhythm of things. Um, and then from then on, I think I spent kind of the next couple of months um, fully working from home, where um, I I didn't have a nanny yet, so I was like doing everything with Oliver. So I don't know. I would be camera off and nursing, but in a call, and just like doing everything with my AirPods, and maybe I'd be changing him on a call, or just working, like doing emails when he was napping, and just like juggling things like that. Obviously, when I did have a meeting where I had to, have my camera on, or like really there could be no like uh, this disruption or anything, then uh, Chris, my husband, jumped in to help. So yeah, with his help, and kind of with the flexibility that I have, thanks to my work, I was able to kind of handle doing that. Um, but then I think by month 6, I had already hired a full time, Monday to Friday full time nanny, and that just like, yeah, that was a huge game changer, obviously.
Awesome. And I know we are coming up at the end of our scheduled block of time, but one question I always like to ask founders that I have on here is, if you were starting a new business today, what would you start?
Ah, well, I already have an idea for a new business. It's kind of like a continuation of the Defiant, but I do want to make a um, fully Web3 native media company. So like a media protocol. And yeah, I mean,
What does that look like? I'm curious, because I've wondered that before. What would a
mhm.
truly Web3 native company look like?
So I think of a way to incentivize content producers, um, and so I think it would look like a marketplace for content, um, but it would also need to have some editorial control. So it's not just like Twitter, just like people posting anything out. Like it would have to be actual journalism. So so there'd have to be some kind of standards uh, and like guidance for the content that's produced. So yeah, some kind of information marketplace. I think something like that is well suited for like investigative journalism or scoops, or for information that's not kind of easily found elsewhere. But yeah, I'll be. It's still something that I'm kind of brainstorming on. Hopefully, I'll have more concrete details sometime in the future. I don't know when.
Awesome. Can't wait to see it. Thanks
Mhm.
so much for sharing your story with us today. Really, really cool to hear how you built the Defiant and managed to balance being a new mom with running a company. Final question: where can people follow you?
On Twitter, I'm at Camila Russo, and I also follow the Defiant. It's at Defiant News.
Awesome. Thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Awesome. Thank you.